1939, when England and Canada declared war against Germany because of their invasion of Poland. Well, with the history of what the Germans did with their blitzkriegs and all that, they knew that London was going to get it. So they decided that all the kids in especially South London, where all the dockyards were, and on the River Thames, and the largest munitions factory in England was called the Woolwich Arsenal. And
you get a
so
shadow from the glasses.
And our home was actually only about 2.5 miles away from the Woolwich Arsenal. So anyway, they decided all the kids had to leave, so they bundled all up and put us into buses with our little gas masks on our shoulders and sent us away to various parts of the country. Some of the kids even were lucky and they went to the USA. One of whom was Elizabeth Taylor. That's how she came to America, as an evacuee from London. Anyway, they sent my brother and I down to Maidstone in Kent, which is quite ridiculous because it was only something like 5-6 miles from where we lived. But that didn't last very long. Unfortunately, we were billeted with an old couple who had never had children, and they were really out of their depth with a couple of young lads like my brother and I. And it was quite an unhappy time, and our parents eventually came and took us back home again. Well, after that, my mother bundled us up again, and we went to Wales for, I'm not sure how long, it was probably only about 6 months. That was not a very nice experience. The Welsh people really didn't want us there. The London kids, they bullied us, and the local kids beat us up and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, that lasted for about 6 months, and back to London again. And then I went with another boy, a friend of mine from down the road. We were evacuated to Lancashire, that's the county of Lancashire, in a place called Bury. Interesting, Bury, because you've heard of Bobby Peel, the father of the British Bobbies. Well, he was born in Bury, so they have a statue to him in the middle of Bury. And interesting thing, his waistcoat is buttoned on the wrong side. It's buttoned on the ladies' side. The rest of his statue is all right, but just a little side. Anyway, we were there, probably for a year. In the meantime, we're backwards and forwards to London, and of course the bombing had all started, and we would see and hear the Germans coming over. They originally started with daytime bombing, but then with the old RAF sort of was gradually taking command of daytime in the air, and they were losing too many planes, so then they switched to nighttime bombing. And we'd hear them coming over, and all the drone of the engines was unbelievable. And it would go on all night, bombs dropping all the time, all around us. Woolwich Arsenal, I remember one time you could see the fires from Woolwich Arsenal as much as 20 miles away. You could just see the red sky where Woolwich Arsenal was being bombed. And my dad worked down there, my brother worked in the Woolwich Arsenal. My mother had to go to work there for a time because they took all the women and all the men had to work in the war effort. And we actually saw the dogfights over London and saw all the vapor trails up in the air. There was one especially big, huge day where the Germans were coming over wave after wave after wave, and the Spitz and the Hurricanes were up there, and because don't forget that the Germans were in France, so their fighters could come over as support for the bombers. So there was, tremendous dogfights going on. And we could see it all. We were bombs all around us. I remember seeing a landmine coming down on a parachute, which landed just probably about a third of a mile from our house. Completely obliterated a whole block of houses. And you could see this thing great big round. It was actually a sea mine that he put a parachute on and dropped it. That was a nasty one. After that, of course, we had the doodle bugs. And we had my mother and I had a nasty experience with one of those. Normally they would fly over and the engine would cut out, and then you could count up to maybe 5 to 10 seconds when they dropped down and exploded. Well, we were walking down an embankment, and if you've been to Britain, you know that the railway lines are always built up so the trains travel on an embankment either side. We were walking down a lane, my mother and I, and we heard, it was a very low, cloudy day, and we heard this drone of this doodle bug, and then, boy, it was close, and we kept looking up at the clouds, and all of a sudden, the engine did not cut out. It was just losing its power. And we looked up, and there's this doodle bug diving straight at us. I kid you not, they were absolutely terrifying. And this darn thing, it was, well, we both ran and dived into a field next to the path we were on. In this field was allotments where people used to grow their own vegetables. So we ended up in a field of potatoes. And we were lucky because the doodle bug actually dropped and exploded just the other side of the embankment, no more than 150 yards from us. Of course, we felt the shock of it, but we immediately ran home and see what damage had been done, and of course there was a lot. But after that, we had the V-2s, the rockets, which you never knew when they were coming, because all of a sudden there'd just be a huge explosion. You couldn't hear the V-2s, love, just the explosion. They came out of, as you know, started the rocket program, wasn't it? That was von Braun, I believe, was the guy who was the scientist in charge of those. He eventually went to America and put you guys into space. But that, in a nutshell, was our experience of the war. Lots of other things went on, of course, but it's just the Blitz and why we were sent away and some of the experiences we had.